Shalom. Apostle Tahar coming back at you with this truth, giving all praise to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua B'Shem Rukakwadash. And I'm going to entitle this, The Truth Came Out of One West. Now, we know that out of One West, a lot of these major camps are former One Westers, like GMSI, UIC, ISUPK, HOD, HODC, LOI, AOC, HOI, there's so many of them. They'll be here all day bringing out these alphabets, but you know who you are. And then you had other camps that came out of those initial camps. Give you an example. At the GMS came Sakari, and then maybe you had some other camps that kind of stemmed from that. You had other brothers kind of listened to various alphabet camps and kind of came up with their own thing. And then you had a camp FOPI, alright, because FOPI comes to mind. They started with HODC, and in one interview that they had, I forget who it was, I think it was with Captain Tazariak of the ISUPK and Captain Katazar, that when they mentioned, was you part of any of the One West camps, and they said yeah, but they almost like, yeah, we learned a little, so they're doing their own thing. What they're teaching is the same thing that the IOG, which is the Israel of God, was teaching. And I just found this out that because I didn't know, the Israel of God, or the IOG, teaches that the so-called Latin tribes are not the tribes of Israel. So I guess they teach that all the tribes would have to be Negroid descent, which show you that the Most High is not dealing with them. Anyway, this is a video. I'm gonna try not to make this long. If the Spirit pushes me to go long, it'll go long. This is a video that was put up September 28, 2019, entitled IOG, Israel replaced by his brother Esau, 2019. And they seem to suggest, I haven't watched the whole video, but I kind of jumped around, that Esau would have to be the white man. But I believe they teach that Esau can make it and the other nations can make it, so they're off again. Anyway, this is at the 48-minute 20-second mark of a 1 hour 8-minute 56-second long video. So we're at the 48-minute mark, 48-minute 20 seconds in. So listen up.
You got here. If you don't know nothing else, you're the only one in this hemisphere. I don't care what part of it, from Panama or whatever. But go ahead, finish that verse.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
And ain't nobody gonna buy you out of it. So now, you are the descendants of people that were sold in slavery. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so as you can hear and see, the reader's reading from Deuteronomy 28, 64, 66, and 68, and he says that, yeah, we were the people that were sold into slavery. If you read the 68 verse, it says in ships. They believe that the Jake being brought over here in slave ships is a fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. Okay, so let's listen on.
Who else in this hemisphere can make that claim? Nobody else. When we got a brother, Hebrew brothers running around, they done made everybody Israelite. You got a Puerto Rican, he's an Israelite. You got the Native American, he's an Israelite. When they get through naming them, I said, well, how did the Puerto Rican get here? Did he come as a slave? No. Did the American Indian come as? No. Then you didn't read Deuteronomy 28 chapter where it says shall be a sign and a wonder. It ain't no hard thing to figure out who Israel is in this hemisphere? All you got to do is read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter.
Right.
That is, if the curse has come upon us. Now let's see what came upon us, the blessing or the curse. You already know, don't you? Because
Okay, so now I have some questions, and I'm gonna go to a couple of scriptures. He said that you got Israelites teaching that Puerto Ricans, the Ephraimites, and he mentioned some of the Latin tribes, and he said, well, how can those people be the people when they didn't fulfill Deuteronomy 28 verse 68, coming over here and serving slavery? Well, some of the curses went on Judah, and other curses went on the other tribes. Now you have a big community of thousands of people in West Africa and Nigeria, the Igbo people. You have they clearly teach that they are the lost tribes of Israel, and they escaped from the onslaught of the Roman armies during the time of Vespasian and Titus, and they went as far as the western coast of Africa, Benin and Sierra Leone and the Congo, Senegal, Nigeria. So did they ever get taken in slave ships? No. Now when they grabbed us up, they grabbed up a large percentage of us, but they didn't get all Israel. So if none of the Israelites that are currently in West Africa today, if they still there, that means that they're not Israelites, because the curses came on a great deal of Israelites, but not all Israel. So that all these people of West Africa, they would have to have gone into slavery and be put on auction blocks. A lot of them stayed there in Africa, West Africa. And then how do you explain the Israelites that were scattered in Elam? That's in Isaiah the 11th chapter. That's also in Acts the 2nd chapter, where they came for the Pentecost, and it said that the Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven, and it mentions Elam and Cush and all those different. They were literally scattered all over the place. So did the so-called white man go over to Elam and grab up people and say, well, y'all are Israelites and we got to fulfill Deuteronomy 28 and 68, so we're going to put you in slave? Did they come over here in slave ships? No. You have Israelites literally scattered through the planet Earth. Anyway, there's a script. I'm not going to go to it in Hosea 13, I believe it is. I'm not going to go to it. Somebody can put it up. But if the Spirit's on me, I'll go to it. But it tells you about how they're going to tear the pregnant woman's stomach open, let the baby drop out, and stomp their head into the earth. And we say that that's talking about when the Spaniards, the conquistadors, came over, and the atrocities that they committed against the so-called Latin tribes. So now that didn't happen to Judah. The Spaniards Edomites didn't take Judah and do that to Judah. They were placed into slavery. They cared for their lives because they wanted them to be slaves. So you lost money if you had a dead slave. So you wouldn't just go around just killing slaves. You gotta your thing is to maintain them so they can work. And then when they went off, you whipped them so they can get their mind right. So anyway, on these people, the IOG teach that the Gentile, I mentioned that, I'm gonna say it again, the Gentiles the other nations can make it. And when they go to the New Testament, they'll read about the Gentiles and then they'll apply it to the actual other nations, which shows you that these people that claim, the only people that really understand these scriptures are the Israelites that came out of One West. So, you know what I'm going to do? Let me go to 2nd Ezra's, the what is it, 13th chapter, and I'll go to start from the 39th verse. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, so the Most High separated a certain segment of Israel to bring someplace else. It says, those are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea or Ozziah the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria, and that was Shalmaneser the fifth, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Now that other land is the Assyrians. They were captives under the Assyrians, or the Assyrians. So now did these people that were taken over to Assyria by Shalmaneser the fifth, did the white man go ahead and pick them up? Did they go to Assyria and get slaves from Syria? So because we know, based upon the scripture, if you believe in the Apocrypha, that you had Israelites that were taken out of the land of Israel, and that they were scattered. It says, but they took up this count, they are the 10 tribes, but they took up this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen other nations, in particular the Assyrians, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So now you have to answer, who are these Israelites here that were taken into Syria, and who are these Israelites which are the 10 the kingdom, the northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel? It said that they were going to be taken to a further country. So it's obvious they're not going to suffer the curse of Deuteronomy 28 and 68, because they're not in that country. And the country that they were taken from in slave ships was out of Africa, not out of Israel. It says that they might dare keep their statutes. Now there's several, and I did videos on this, where you had so-called Jewish scholars and religious Christian scholars and experts do projects on, including James Adair, that are these people over here in the Americas, the indigenous people, are the Israelites. Now James Adair said he's traded with them and lived among them for a number of years, and he said he checked out what they did, and he said these people are Israelites. He said when they looked at fire, they called it ash. It said that they called on the name of Yahweh. Their marriage customs, their burial customs, they wore fringes. Why did the Gadites wear fringes? Was that a fashion statement back then? No, because they remember what Moses said to them. And what is that, Numbers? Was that 15:37, if I'm not mistaken? And that was right after the man that was picking up stones got put to death. So the Lord said, from now on, put fringes on the border of your garment. Because if you're going to pick up sticks, you're going to look down. And when you look down, you're going to see fringes and you're going to say, oh, it's the Sabbath. Let me not pick up sticks on the Sabbath. And the Most High gave you a example of what can happen to you if you don't keep the tiniest of laws. There's laws unto death. And breaking the Sabbath is a sin unto death. So they didn't have fringes on their garments. I'm talking about Gad because it was a fashion statement. No, they had it because they had to be of the tribes of Israel that came over here. And if you don't believe this, you got to throw out the Apocrypha. It says, but 41st verse, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, the other nations, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Now there's a whole thing on matter of fact, you know what, let me see if I can get it. Let me find it. Bear with me for because I didn't think about this, but now it's coming to my mind. So okay, boom, I went right there. So what I did was I put in Navy, and Navy came up four verses. 1 Kings 9 verse 26 and verse 27, 1 Kings 10 verse 11, and 1 Kings 10 22. So let's go ahead and read some of this. It says First Kings 9 verse 26, and King Solomon made a navy of ships, and Ezon Geber, which is besides Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me do this. And Hiram, now Hiram, that's a important name. Hiram was a Canaanite, and Hiram the Canaanite, the Masonic sect, religion, whatever you want to call it, is based upon Hiram, which they call Hiram Abiff, the Canaanite, because he was a master builder. It says, and Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea. These were Canaanites. The Greeks call them Phoenicians, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, and Ophir is America, and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. It speaks about the fine gold of Ophir. The best gold came out of America, because America was a paradise. And this is a whole different yeah, they'll say Ophir is a land or city in southern Arabia, and Solomon's trade route where gold eventually was traded for goods. No, Ophir is America. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me try this. Gonna ask Google. Oh, and by the way, the word Ophir, Awa Paryar, is supposed to mean reduced to ashes. What is going to be reduced to ashes? America. So that's an omen nomen. a name sign, name prediction. Okay, so let me take the word Ophir and let me go to this video is getting a little long, but that's okay. Oh, by the way, if you go to the U.S. depth clock, the national depth is according to the depth clock is over 26 trillion, which if you go back 3-4 months ago it was like 26 trillion. When you go back it's to February, it was about 23 trillion. So the depth clock went up more and jumped the most in like 3-4 months than in 200 years of this country. So, you know, this guy Trump is tearing the country up for sure. Okay, let me go into Ophir. Is Ophir America? Is Ophir America? Let's see what the so-called experts say. Ooh, wait a minute. Ophir, Wikipedia, jumped to Americas in a letter written in May 1500. Peter Martyr claimed that Christopher Columbus identified Hispaniola, and that's part of the Americas, with Ophir. I didn't know they were gonna say that. Okay, here's another one. Let me click on that. Let me click on that. Okay, let me see. Okay, the Indians who came from Ophir, prophecy and natural history in early modern Brazil. So they identified Ophir with the Americas. Esau knows his shit. If I remember, I'll leave the link in the description box. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a word search here for the word Ophir. Okay, Ophir comes up 7 times. It says the Indians who came from Ophir prophesied natural history is early modern Brazil, which is in the Americas, Southern Americas. The Indians who came from Ophir prophesied, it says the same thing. Let me jump down. Okay, there's a bunch of paragraphs down. It said these original inhabitants, the Aboriginal people of Brazil, which are one of the Americas, whom Brandao depicts as provident and skillful traders, are actively emerging in business with the colonizers at Esau, and the same people whose origins he investigates in the relations of the Old Testament history of the there's a connection there, man. It says Old Testament history of the Jews. Let me read that again. Are the same. It said these people of Brazil are the same people whose origins he investigates in relation to the Old Testament history of the Jews. The Brazilian Indians are the descendants. Wow. The Brazilians, which are Israelites to be exact, Asher. This is more proof that the so-called Latin tribes of Central and South America and the Indian tribes have to be Israel. And this is Esau, man. Look, man, there's a reason why it says in Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, there's no, they can hide from thee. Thou art wiser than Daniel, and Daniel was a super wise man. I got to read this again, this paragraph again. It says, these original inhabitants, the aboriginal people of Brazil, because when Columbus and Esau and them came over there, they had conquered ultimately all of North, Central, and South America. So that includes Canada, all the way down to Mexico, down to Brazil, down to that whole coast. Esau took over that whole coast, man. Why do you think them people down there speak Spanish and Portuguese? Most of those tribes speak Spanish. Why? Because they were conquered by the Spaniards, the conquistadors. Now Brazil, which is a large country, they speak Portuguese. Why do they speak Portuguese? Because it was the Portuguese that took them over another group of Edomites. It says these original inhabitants, the aboriginal people of Brazil, which are Asher, whom Brandao depicts as provident and skillful traders. Where did they get that from? They were traders back then when they were in Israel. Is it actively engaging in business with the colonizers? Are the same people whose origin he did some investigation in relation to the Old Testament history of the Jews. He said these people kind of act like Jews. The Brazilian Indians are the descendants of an ancient tribe sent by King Solomon to the celebrated land of Ophir. So we identified Ophir, and Ophir is not just the USA, it's the whole Americas, in order to fetch wood for the construction of the temple of the Most High. So when Solomon built this temple, and it took, 14 years? 7 years? His house, it took 14 years to build his house. So that was a grand house, and that was a grand temple. And he said he had to get gold. So he said he got the fine gold of Ophir, which is in the Americas. Wow. This truth is, and this is Esau, man. You can't say we're crazy no more and you're making up. These are Edomites. These are scholars. These are historians, man. It says the debate about the origins of American Indians was prominent among early American authors concerned with the discovery of the New World. See, Esau knew when they came over here that they were going to encounter. They were going to encounter the tribes. They knew that. Esau ain't no dummy. It says, lost my place. It says, New World, and not only among them, even Paracelsus was acquainted with the issue. I want to go to the point here. George, World Necessary, Nouveau Mondo, New World, Indians, World of the West Indians. Okay, right here it says many theories that were available at the time on the subject. It was published in Spain in 1607. See, so this is proof that the Edomites at that time, they knew when they were when they were enslaving Jake, they knew that they were enslaving Judah, Benjamin, Levi. They knew when they took down, conquered North, Central, and South America. They knew that they were taking down the tribes of Israel. About 10 years earlier than Brando's book, both authors relate the American Indians to, both authors relate the American Indians to the Jews. They're saying that these are Jews, these are Israelites, through their investigation. And unlike Paracelsus, they don't defend pre-Edomite, excuse me, I hope I read that right, theories, but for Gresha, the relation was seen as something derisive, as seemed to be the case with most of the authors of the period whose opinions he produces. For instance, he examines at length many moral defects that would be shared by Indians and Jews, such as fearfulness, ingratitude, and lack of faith. Let me come down. Let me read this one. It seems that this was a dominant position at the time, as remarked recently by Lucia Helena Costigan. She gives only 2 examples of early modern authors who view the kinship between Indians and Jews from a positive perspective. The Portuguese Jesuit Antonio Vieira, I hope I said that right, 1688 to 97, and Manasseh ben Israel, a Jew who migrated as a 4-year-old child with his family from Portugal to Amsterdam in 1610 and established there the first Hebrew press. I'm just jumping around, please forgive me. Okay, there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I want to get to the point. Okay, it says, concerning the people that settled down in the coast of Brazil, we have count that could be used in order to infer the time of their arrival. The scriptures give no clue by which one might infer whether they came crossing the ocean or by the land. So what the writer here is saying is that we don't know how they got here. Well, if they read the Apocrypha, they would understand. It says by which one might infer whether they came across the ocean or by the land, and even nowadays, when so much has been discovered, one cannot nose out the place through which they might have moved into this other world, which is another region, which is the New World, which is the Americas. Like I said, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just jumping around. Bear me for a minute in my silence. Bear with me. Okay. This is Ophir again, comes up again. The system of cooling winds and the location of Ophir. Before Brandao could answer the question about the origins of the Brazilian Indians, he had to face another problem. In his book, he wanted to portray Brazil as a temperate land, but this conflicts with Brazil's location in the so-called torrid zone, a region in which life was considered to be impossible. Oh, let me read this. Just jumping around. It says this distinction, this difference originating from inside the torrid zone concerns not only the Brazilian climate and fauna and flora, but also the people who had inhabited the land before the arrival of the colonizers, the Edomites, in particular the Portuguese. The system of cooling winds coming from the sea can, to a certain extent, explain why the inhabitants of Guyana and Ethiopia, regions also situated in the torrid zone, have black skin and curly hair. Cabello, rectorcido. It says, basically explains why they had black skin, meaning dark brown skin, and curly hair, while the inhabitants of Brazil are bleached out and have lighter skin and have straight hair. That had to be a mixture. The explanation depends, however, on further arguments. At this point, Brandao starts to address the question of the origins of the Brazilian Indians. And the Brazilian Indians were light to dark brown, caramel colored. It said both Africans and Brazilians are descendants of Noah and Adam. The Africans descend from Ham, who settled in Africa a very long time ago. So Esau knows, that the so-called Africans, the Hamites, or the Africans go back to Ham. They know that. They know that they go back to Esau. I'm just trying to pick up some... It said, moreover, Brazilian Indians are bleached out and have straight hair, not only because of the influence of the cooling winds, which is bullshit. There is an additional reason, and here we face a most significant turn of Brandao's argumentation. He believes the Brazilian Indians are more modern. Good point. These are newcomers, man. The original people of Brazil were of Indian descent. Then with the slave trade, you had, because a lot of so-called Brazilians are actually Judites and Benjamites and Levites. It's a they would have started to inhabit the land after later than the Africans started to inhabit Africa. Brando's now advances his particular theory about Ophir, which is America. The place is referred to in the Old Testament, but there is no identification about its precise location. It was where, much later than the colonization of Africa by Ham and his descendants, King Solomon and King Hiram, which is the Canaanite, they worked together, sent people from Israel to fetch gold, silver, and wood for the construction of the temple of the Most High. It says other authors addressing the issue of origins of American Indians speculated about the history. Some of them situated Ophir directly in America. Let me read that again. It says, the origins of the American Indians speculated about the history, some of them situate Ophir directly. So Ophir is America. Brandau's localized Ophir on the coast of Africa, on the Gulf of Guinea. The people sent by Solomon and Hiram, or Hiram Abiff as they call him, to fetch material for the construction of the temple, and have navigated to that region, which is America. From there, it would not have been difficult to reach the coast of Brazil, which is Ophir. And Brazil means, I believe it means brass or iron. I got to look that up. It's a Hebrew word. Brazil is a Hebrew word. Believed that this was indeed the destiny of part of the fleet, which became lost during the voyage. Anyway, I'm not going to read anymore. What I'll do is I'll leave the link in the description box, and you can read the rest of this article. So even Esau says that Ophir is the Americas. That's what he says. So now let's go back. Where are we? Okay, let's come back. Let me read 1 Kings 9 verse 26 to 28 again. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And because Edom was slaves, so we just took over that. We did what we wanted to do to them Edomites. It says, and Hiram sent in the navy his servants, a shipman that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon, with Solomon's people. So you had Israelites going over there too. And they came to Ophir, which is America. We just proved that. And fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to the king of Solomon. Now we're going to go to 1 Kings 10 verse 11. And the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir brought in from Ophir great plenty of almond trees and precious stones. I'm going to jump down to 22. For the king had at sea a navy excuse me, of Tarshish, which was the navy of Hiram. With the navy of Hiram, once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So it's a 3-year cycle. So you cut it in half, because it took a certain amount of time to get to the Americas and a certain time to come back. So half of 3 years is a year and a half, and that goes directly line up with what the Apocrypha's account is saying. It says the navy of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. So now where are we? Okay, let's go back to the Apocrypha. Let's go to the 39th verse. 2nd Ezra 13, verse 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto them, these were the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land into the land of into the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. That other land was Assyria. But the Israelites took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, the other nations, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Because the ships in Tarshish of Solomon's navy, they didn't dwell there. They just went there, picked up gold, silver, wood, peacocks, and so forth, and bring them back. And it was this ongoing cycle. They would go out there, and they would leave 1 year, and they'll be back 3 years later with all that gold, silver, and so forth. It says that they might dare keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land because they went off. It says, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the floods till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years. Now Solomon's cycle of going back to the land of Ophir, getting gold, silver, peacocks, wood, and so forth, and precious things, it was a 3-year cycle. 1.5 years going, they picked it up, boom, 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 came back to Solomon. Except for through that country there was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years, and the same region is called Asaruf. And Asaruf is found in Deuteronomy, I believe it's 29. Let's see. And that word Asaruf means another land. And I'm going to prove that. Excuse me. Deuteronomy 29. Okay, Deuteronomy 29, verse 28. And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. So that's a prophecy as to what what happened to him. Another land in the Hebrew is Akar Aratazah. Akar Aratazah, which means another land. Akar Aratazah. And it's written a little different here when you let me see. Asaraf should be Akar Aratazah, which is another land. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. We're in the latter time. And now when they begin to come. And the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through, therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace, which are Israel. Ultimately, all Israel is going to come over here to fulfill the prophecy of them going through hell. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within thy borders. So you had Israel that even remained in the land of Israel in the neighboring areas. 49 verse. Now when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, which is the elect. This is talking about this is getting ready to happen. And then shall he show them great wonders. Then said I, O Lord, that beareth rule, show me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea. So all these things took place. You have the tribes, the northern kingdom that's already here. Then you had the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, that came over here against their will, starting from the 16, as early as the 1500s. And when all these things happen, that's when the Lord's going to come. So the Lord is getting ready to come. Anyway, yeah, so that proves that in a roundabout way, that proves I did a whole lot of directions, but it's all part of the coming together of this knowledge. Like I said, you got Edomites that scholars and historians and religious folk from back in the 1600s to 17, 1800s up until now, that they study everything. They investigate everything. It says there's nothing they can hide from these. So, you know, these Edomites know who we are. They know that we're the Israelites. You know, they know who Judah is. They know who Benjamin is. They know who Ephraim is. They know that the Ephraim are the Puerto Ricans. So, you know, that further shows you that the truth came out of One West. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom, and it's on to the next one. Shalom.